Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Legislative Review Committee. Today is Thursday, December 7th, and I'm Commissioner Carol Myers, the chair of the LRC. And we're going to get our meeting going here so we can get to all this important work of the county. And we're going to start with an approval of the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second, that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous passing of the minutes. All right, no public input. Let's see, no public. Just a lot of staff and elected officials. And we're going to move on to C. And we are changing the order of these two bullet points to accommodate the needs of the staff and staff time. So I'm going to pass it over to, we're going to work on the review and updated neighborhood traffic management program first, and I'm going to pass it over to Assistant Manager Nikki Jones.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. Just a quick recap of where we've been. I think we've looked at this policy in LRC recently, probably for 3 meetings or so. This might be the 4th meeting. And in that time, I think the LRC has decided to move forward with a name change called Residential Traffic Management Program opposed to the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program to be more in line with what the purpose of this policy is. And speaking of purpose, to clarify, I think the LRC has decided that the purpose of this policy is to improve pedestrian safety and reduce crashes in neighborhoods. Another decision point that LRC ran into was to advance the data-driven model. So what we hear today is related to the data-driven policy, but also wanted to leave room for an opt-in policy, which is a request-based policy. So if you're in a neighborhood, you can request it, but that would be a self-funded policy. The data-driven policy would be the local government-funded policy. So the last meeting, we got a request for the gray shaded copy, sent that to y'all earlier, but you also have it in front of you. Also, you have the criteria and kind of where things laid out. So, and DPW folks, please correct me if I'm wrong. There were 3 different scenarios, but there's also a scenario where we went through the exercise with y'all, and you guys, what did we put? Beads in a doggy bowl. I think that's what we did, and that weighted out a certain way. So there, you'll see 4 scenarios in front of you. The staff is coming to you with a staff recommendation, and that would be scenario 1. But I don't want to steal TPW's thunder on that, and I'll let them go into that here in a second. Also, there's the opt-in voluntary request-based policy, and we would like for us to hold off on discussing anything related to that until we kind of get this policy under our feet. But I'll turn it over to TPW, or I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah. If everyone wants to take a look at this piece of paper, it's the staff's recommended study. So I have some personal news which does affect this, which is that my last day with TPW will be the 15th. So this is my last LRC meeting with you guys. But I would love it if we could finalize this before I go, just because it does involve some complex statistical analyses, and it's probably easier if I'm on board to finish this part for you versus who knows what sort of background the next person's going to have. So my hope is that we can all finalize this and have the list of projects. I know that the policy may need a tweak or 2. That's not as difficult to do after I'm gone, because that's just using Word. But tweaking the spatial analysis is a little bit harder. So did y'all take a look at these weights? Do you have thoughts on the weights? Do you want me to walk through them?
Yeah, if we could walk through the staff recommended weights, I think that'd be a perfect.
Yeah.
And did you just mention before you do that on that nice spreadsheet where you had the different scenarios, including the one from our exercise last time? This is scenario 1, is your recommended one?
Scenario 1 is the recommendation.
Okay.
And thank you, Sherelle. Now staff is bringing to you what we see from a subject matter experts. And I know there was emphasis from the commission to this commission to focus more on crashes. We don't disagree. We just want to advise you that the crash data that we collect is based on facts. We are not capturing near misses. And therefore, near misses are usually captured with speed and volume. That's why you see staff's recommendation focused on speed and volume. Everything else will still have a weight in there, but I think if we translate your concerns, they translate to speed and volume. Your concerns are near misses, discouraging the residents from utilizing the street and its facilities because traffic is moving fast, intimidating the walker or person who may use it to walk or bike or jog or run, whatever. That's the back of our weighted recommendation. Still, we depend on you guys to give us the final recommendation to move forward. And we would, with that, I'll leave it for more questions.
Well, I'm curious. So when I look at scenario 1 versus commission rates, I guess it was my scenario 4. It seems like our crash. So the crash severity on this is actually crash history, including severity. Remember correctly?
Yes.
Last meeting, yeah. So looks like we're about the same, right? 20-21%, basically the same. The big difference is we weighted speed way less, and it seems like we added that more significantly to residential density and equity.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm curious where we see these kind of, they seem mostly like outlier cases, right? But there's like a few that jump from like way down to the left. And I think a few that jump from pretty high to way down. Is that related to density or equity? Like, do you have a sense of which of those factors is the modifying factor?
Well, it's also a little bit sidewalk access. It's also probably not so much density and equity as it is that speed became so much lower.
Okay.
So like, if there's not a lot of speeding on those segments, then the other things end up mattering more. So like, it's probably more so that speeding is lower on this. If I don't have the numbers right in front of me. I will say though, for both of them, the ones, number 9, which is Jennings Mill Parkway, and then number 6, which is Berkland Drive, because we collapse these into, and we have another sheet we can show you guys potentially later. We would collapse all these into projects rather than segments in terms of, there's multiple segments of Old Monroe Road that are on this list, multiple segments of Jennings Mill Parkway. So both of those would actually be addressed in the top projects because there are other segments of the street that are higher ranked.
Okay, that's helpful to understand. Because I guess the big takeaway I would kind of have when I was thinking about this, you make a policy that tries to address everything by the same criteria. But if we have these few kind of outlier cases where one criteria is not really going to apply, but another very much would, is there a way to kind of address those outlier cases that might be a much bigger deal for a totally different reason than what we generally want in projects? I don't really know how to capture that in a policy well, but just like seeing on here something jump from 100 and something to 9, it's like a pretty huge.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the speeding thing. If there's not a huge speeding problem on those segments, when you drop the weight of speed down so significantly, it's gonna drop.
I'm thinking about Jennings Mill Parkway specifically as an example of that. I mean, if we think that there's issues otherwise, but the speed limit on that road is just higher, right? Because it's 9 is not, right?
Yeah, well, not this section that's on this, but
Yeah.
Do we have other questions here about these criteria and the staff recommended ones or concerns about that? I'm for one, good with your final analysis, but I just want to hear.
I just want to know what was the definition of, on this one, of commissioner rank.
Oh, so you weren't here for the last
Okay.
session, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did an exercise last
Okay.
week when they did these. And I think everyone agreed that it wasn't exactly how you would have found it. It was
Right,
good
it was
thought.
quick. It was very quick. I wouldn't like be basing what we spend money on that one. That was a very quick decision, so it came out where to put.
Yeah. It was a good thought exercise to think through the priorities, but not necessarily, I don't think any of you would want the bad option is.
I mean, I guess in my mind, the question is, do we think that we should prioritize the residential density or equity factors a bit more at the expense of speed being prioritized? So I don't really have a strong opinion about that. That seems to me to be kind of like the only thing. My thinking is probably stick with what staff thinks we should do rather than do that. But
That's a good question, Commissioner Holden. I asked the same question, and TPW folks, again, correct me if I'm wrong here. We went back to the purpose, and the purpose was to reduce crashes and create more safety for pedestrians, i.e. get rid of speed. So that's why we rank it as the highest, right?
speed is the most likely to kill
Yes.
significant.
Exactly. And also all of our countermeasures that we have under this program, their main purpose is to reduce speed. So we want to identify the roads that are most suitable for the program as well. And if we're looking at other indicators higher, then we may be less likely to identify the roads that are most suitable to benefit from speed management.
Yeah, I think the solutions need to be aligned with the ranking criteria. I mean, if you're discussing residential density and what percentage, or if it has a percentage, that speaks to when people say, we don't want this to be built here because it's going to increase the traffic. The residential density and volume seem to be aligned.
Yeah,
I mean, as far as instead of them two different categories. The
in
thing,
some ways, volume is like a proxy for residential density, because the number of people using the road is very related to how many homes are on the road.
well, but it's also because the wording for residents, which I agree, versus citizens, but we're forgetting about visitors. I mean, in my district, there's thousands of people coming and going from campus. And the house counts the same, but on a different day, yesterday, it was school buses because the school district kids got to go to the Lady Dogs game, stuff like that. So there's reasons that the volume changes that have nothing to do with the residential density,
And that's definitely captured in that volume.
which is the volume.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm getting at is if we have a criteria that's residential density, that's not one of our solutions. We don't have a solution for residential density.
There's definitely no solution for that.
So I'm wondering if our criteria should be aligned with the solutions that we have, which is, like you say, the ability to slow speed down.
Well,
And staff recommended prioritizes that by far the least.
yeah, I mean, and the residential density does happen like this day where in your part of town, where you have the volume going through, but in terms of pedestrian, where you have denser housing, there's going to be more people walking around, walking their dogs, walking down to 5 Points, I'm thinking in that area there. So in that case, I mean, I think the density does have more to do than maybe even on that street that cuts through from Cherokee, Moss Way, where there probably aren't as many people walking somewhere because of the destination where the density, the density is in the destination. So,
Anyway, we're talking about which percentages we want to go with, and
Yeah.
I'm looking at
Yeah.
these here, with that one category of a
But it's
district.
not like it's 5%, so I would.
Commissioner Culpepper, for your benefit, just kind of catch you up real quick. What you have in front of you is a gratiated policy. So these are the updates that staff is proposing to put into the policy. Some of the LRC's input. Also, what you see on the screen is staff's recommended criteria for the new data-driven policy. And then also you'll see a number of scenarios on how the criteria impacted the segments of the streets.
Right, and we're focusing on this handout, where Cherie wants to wrap her work up related to that by the 15th, is what I'm hearing too.
So for that, and then maybe this can answer some of your concerns. So we ran two scenarios, scenario one and scenario two. Scenario one had density of 5%. Scenario two had density 0%. We did not consider it at all. Look at that change to the priorities. Really almost nothing. It didn't make a lot of difference. If we go to 10%, which we have not included here, it changes the program drastically. We believe density is important, but it's not to the importance of the other weighted items. Now, the policy, it's a policy. If we move forward with a recommendation today, we can come back in 2 years and reevaluate, is this still valid? So this is not the end. We still have time. We'll see how this program goes. If there is a neighborhood or a street that needs attention, we'll go back and look at the policy. And also, Mayor and Commission do have the authority of shifting things around. If things change, like let's just say development change, something new happens. Now we're aware based on data, there's more information that we should have maybe included in the weighted criteria. At that point, we'll come back to the table and discuss those. Of course, we'll go first to the manager's office, bring them up to speed, they bring you up to speed, and if it's decided to come back here, we'll come back here.
And to offer just like a small piece of assurance, there is no right way to do this. There's no, y'all know me, I am Little Miss Researcher. I will spend hours on end searching for the absolute perfect way. There is no perfect way. So I just hope all of you don't feel like, oh, we might be missing something or we're doing something wrong, because we're doing far more than actually most other counties. And this is way more proactive than most other counties. So there's no research on what that's the best way is, because we're at the forefront.
Right.
And what did you say about the Berkman Drive and Jennings Mill? They're on here twice.
Okay, yes. So can you give them the other project list? I'm just gonna give you guys this because I think it's. So that list is by segment, which means lots of segments. But one street has many segments along it.
Yeah.
This list is by project. So if you agree to this prioritization criteria, this is how the projects would fall.
And your color coding key means?
I will. That is just where they are in current funding. I mean, if you want them.
And what does that mean as far as the red, green, and blue?
Green is where we already funded it based on our budget.
Red is
Then-
pilot traffic calming list.
Blue is appeared on our previous agenda item that we didn't actually fund it or put it in the
Green and blue at the back.
So you've got the status listed for the coloring. See that?
So if we're thinking about like resident expectations, it's the residents on these highlighted streets that already have some kind of expectation who they've already engaged us somehow.
Yeah.
Well, and we also, it's not like you say, no writings or
No.
perfect solution, but this is just half of us. We have the other half of the commission to also
Get this.
understand and get through. And our charge is to improve. And just changing the name is already the improvement there. But I also, I guess, with the policy, so I'm good with it going forward with what you guys said. I make a motion, I don't know. I think that what I hear about that people complain is the speed on that street and again, the volume, the speeding is what the complaint comes.
And you have
And so I guess,
75% of the indicators are basically all related to speed. Like 75%.
okay, thanks for the fact that we're breaking it up is making me think of them differently
Yeah, but
as opposed to,
Volume and crashes, they're all.
to be clear, okay. All right, thank you for getting that in front of me.
Were you making a motion?
Not if you need some more clarification.
No, I was going to have a statement because I know what is going to happen. All the other commissioners are going to look for streets in their district. So we just need to be clear on whatever and whatever we say, because that's the only thing I'm looking at is street. So I know when we get out, it's going to be a conversation that we need to just be prepared to answer. That's all.
Yeah, I was already.
And the nice thing is pretty equally spread across the whole county, not by any, like, not my doing, just by the way the cookie crumbled,
Yeah.
they spread pretty.
So,
I'm thinking about colleagues too. I think it's most likely that people hear from them like, this new policy better not backtrack on the stuff we've already agreed to do, right? And I'm assuming that even if we adopt this policy, we're still going to move forward on the things that are already identified for.
The red and the green, yeah.
The red and the green are still going to move forward.
What's the blue?
So that is a question that still needs to be answered, which is, those are streets that went through the process previously.
And got all the signatures?
Then the priority list.
Did they get signatures?
I think they were in the same situation as the ones that got the pilot program recommendation, where they didn't succeed in the process,
Okay.
but were lower ranked.
Well, then I do have a question, and it is a blue. On the previous NTP list, but no funding available. So now they go back to the beginning now that we have funding though?
Because they were part of like basically the last group that tried to go through NTMP, but they didn't succeed in gathering signatures.
Yeah, which is the criteria we're shifting to
That
data.
starts the process.
That
That used to.
previously started the process.
Yeah, previous. Now it's all data driven, which I think when I was looking through this policy, I think it needs to be like have something that defines that more rather than just data driven, like where the data, I know it's on one of these other sheets, but somewhere in this policy,
Refer back to the.
referring back to the fact that the data comes from internal straight light, blah, 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 and maybe turn it into like regular understandable language. Like it comes from the GPS data off our phones as we go up and down the streets, if that's correct, or make sure I understand that.
When, yeah, okay.
So there's the project prioritization section. The only reason we didn't put specifically where it comes from is that these things sometimes change, right? Like for now we have street light, but in a year maybe we'll have replica or we'll have a different source.
Okay, but where was that in? Which section? What page?
This is project prioritization.
No, I want to know where it is in the policy. No, what you're, like in that, where are you?
I'm on page, they probably,
I know, that's like, it's at the end.
Yeah.
It's looking for the gray.
let me see.
Yeah, it's the second last page.
Yeah, it's like section 5. 13.
Yeah.
Pages aren't numbered.
Project prioritization.
Yeah, I just want something in, it doesn't, I would just like to have something in, regular speak language that makes it clear to what that is.
So are you saying you want this to be included in the policy?
No, I just wanted to say, based upon the following factors, these factors, numbers 1, 2, and 3 come from GIS, GPS generated, something or other that a normal person would understand. So they're not.
So you want to know where the data's coming from?
Right. You know what? Some way that when I pick it up and I'm like, oh, this is really TPW going up and down my street and counting the numbers. I just wanted one generic sentence.
So Commissioner, if maybe this would help if we include this table with the definition that has the description. I think that's what you're referring to.
And maybe something that
And
says.
if this is the only change, I believe we can approve
Yeah.
a policy today with the change to add this to the
Yeah.
policy as an attachment.
Exactly. And I do want to make a motion that we accept this
Okay.
before I thought we wanted to do that before we picked apart the policy.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we accept the staff recommended weights in this chart.
And does that mean
That's
that
a
we
motion.
also want to accept?
Well,
Let's just do this one first. Can we have a second on that?
I'll second that. I want, you got it. You got it.
Okay, second by.
They got it. They got it.
They got it.
Okay, all in favor of accepting these, staff recommended rates for the prioritization, say, yes.
Aye, yes,
Yes, no.
aye, yes.
All in favor? Got it. Passes unanimously.
I was just asking if accepting those weights means you accept this.
And that's my question. I had a question about this.
There we go. Now.
So, but this part is done, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So, and before you get to that, I think second motion to accept the policy with this added.
Well, we're still talking, we haven't even talked about this yet.
Okay.
Motion
Hold on to that thought.
Do you want to go first?
Go ahead. It seems like we need to go to this.
Well, let me ask a question
This what-
here in my
please keep that.
chair role on this, which makes sense of, I mean, us changing where we're going with this is sort of implementation of the policy and consideration
I
of
just-
past.
I just need to ask a question. I don't care where it goes at, okay? So let's not make this harder than what it is, all right? My question is on the blues. And it's not even a question, it's probably just a comment. It's probably just a comment, because I'm not trying to change anything. I think though, because we changed policy about as far as getting signatures, and we didn't have funding at that time, and now we've changed policy. I know when Jesse did his CDO, which has these pilot traffic calming streets in here, to me, those that are in the blue should be in the brown, because it's not their fault that we changed policies. So we're going to have to go all the way back and start from square one when, and I don't know how these streets were identified. I don't remember that. But if we have if we have three streets that were not funded because they were under the old policy and we didn't have funding, to me, they should look like they should just be bumped into the pilot ones. That's what I'm saying.
Just grandfather them.
Well, I don't know, but I just don't think it's, there must have been some rationale for them to even be considered. But because if it was signature-wise,
Somebody approached GPW.
Yeah. So there must have been some reason. So what I'm saying is, if we would have included them in the gold color, I think that would be equitable. I don't think they should have to go all the way back to square one, because we changed our policy and we did not have funding. So that's my point.
That's an excellent point to make, and I would like more information on those three at a later point, because you said they didn't have a signature, so I'm not sure if that meant they had like one signature or they had 30 signatures. It was me and my neighbor went out, but then we never went to the next step. So, and I may be in 100% agreement with Commissioner Thornton, but I do want to understand the difference between these items. And that would be, would that be then necessarily for the policy, or that would be how we would implement it when we're, in terms of the funding and where we go?
Let me ask a couple of questions of staff. So there are X amount of projects on this list that are funded. Is that correct?
Correct. You're not talking about the blue. You're talking about all the
green.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So brown, which may orange, and green are funded?
Brown is the permanent infrastructure. We have an RFP for bids for this portion. The green is to be determined for the CDO, and that means it's for the pilot program. The blue is for the remaining studied streets, but for the CDO, we're not recommended, did not move forward. So they are if you want to call them backlog based on the old policy, What does happen to them, the question of what does happen to them after the new policy is approved is something that you or the mayor and commission will have to give us their input. Staff today are not ready to tell you or recommend should they be bumped up or left where they are. Today, the task at hand is to provide you all with a data-driven policy and show you what that affect the approved list or the studied list, where it falls, not necessarily to go ahead and identify exception to the policy or grandfathering. But of course, it's your decision.
And I would recommend at the end of whatever we do, Commissioner Thornton, y'all make a great point, because those who have already been on the list, that y'all do make some sort of recommendation to the full mayor commission on what to do with those because they were already on the list.
Which may be appropriate during budget season to consider them, because there's no budget currently. I don't even know if we have enough budget to get through the Browns, for temporary.
Okay, so the browns are temporary, the greens just for, or you're, haven't got them reversed every week, but anyway, John. Oh, John.
So based on the new criteria, these blues are still, they're on the list still. Do they, I guess it changes their criteria. This is based on the new criteria where they rank. Is that correct? But we've already spent time and effort studying them and everything, and there was obviously a effort from residents to get these on this list, correct?
Somebody had to make a call to our traffic engineering department and ask for them to come out and do a study. And that the ones on this list met the warrant. And I was just looking at our database. What they didn't meet was the 65% neighborhood support for that initial support.
For the solution, for the recommended solution. Or
It's not clear from the sheet exactly which, because there's like 2 rounds, so I'm not sure which round they need.
And that is that part is one of the changes, right? And that's my point, I don't think they should, but we could wait till budget season, we could do whatever.
Or at the end of this project.
Yeah, I'm just making a point that they should not be like the ones in the white that did not have some work done. That's what I'm saying.
I'd hate to have to start the process all over with those.
Let me make a suggestion then that we move forward with the policy part, but before we leave you all, because I think our heads are in this, right? So, before we leave, maybe at the next meeting, you can bring us back a more of analysis of those 3 so that we have, some observations to make to the rest of our colleagues who our heads are still in this. Well, yes, I think you will.
I would love for us to move out of here with a recommendation to the commission, and if there's some detail or two to work out, maybe that can be brought up by staff in the agenda setting when we discuss it, rather than having a whole extra meeting about it, especially if we're going to do this for the meeting.
Well,
I'm sure we'll have to come back to the opt-in portion of this. Next meeting. If that matters.
so this was,
yes.
I wasn't trying to hold this up for a recommendation. I'm ready to move forward.
Neither was I here.
Yeah.
So let's look here. We do have our plan people here. So I want to look at this policy and procedure statement here and see, maybe first of all, see if we would go on. If you all the staff wanted to make any, point out anything that you thought was of significance in the actual changes to the policy and procedure statement that you wanted to make to us.
Did you want to address the word pleasant, Nikki?
Yes.
we're back, I've already scratched it out again. Is that really?
Did Stephen write out a list of ideas that we can consider?
I see it's not grayed out anymore.
As I was walking, I was thinking of the word comfortable. If you're going to put any word in there.
Yeah, I just
take it out.
Yeah, I think,
Take it out.
I just don't understand. It's so subjective. We're basically, improving pedestrian safety in residential areas.
In the store.
Where is this?
The program purpose. I mean, I question resident, because we also have plenty of visitors that are driving through our.
Strike and creating more pleasant and replace it with in.
Just.
Yeah.
strike it.
Yeah. Boom. Is that a motion?
Yeah, just.
I mean,
period.
well, if we, do we have to vote on each of the thoughts? I'll make a motion, we get rid of the
Creating more
and
pleasant.
creating more pleasant. And
Yeah,
put in-
that,
Just put in residential areas.
Motion, do we have a second?
I second it.
All in favor? Okay.
All right.
I'm trying to write what you said. Thereby improving pedestrian safety in residential areas of Athens-Clarke County. Is that what?
Yes.
One?
Yeah, because because if we pick resident, which obviously is better than citizens, but it's anybody who's driving. With the percentage of people that come here to work and play.
You didn't change subject.
Okay.
You done jumped ahead. We were talking about the pleasant right
We could
there.
actually continue through and cross out for the citizen residents and just say thereby improving pedestrian safety in residential areas of Athens-Clarke County.
Exactly.
We'll get rid of both, okay?
Okay.
Site. All in favor of that change? Okay.
Okay.
There.
So just to be clear, so now it's going to read, the purpose of the residential traffic management program is to reduce crashes, traffic volumes, and/or speeds, thereby improving pedestrian safety in residential areas of Athens-Clarke County.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah. Does anyone, would you like to make any other notes or on page, we have all these pages?
Okay. I'm looking for, this is gonna sound crazy, another word for bicycles, because we have so many
All right.
individual wheeled apparatuses.
Cyclist?
Alternative modes of transportation.
I mean, we spend a lot of time on scooters, I'm just saying.
Oh, micromobility.
Mobility,
Yeah, that's what.
utensils, what, how do you say?
And then we can,
Micromobility.
Well, some of everybody will understand.
Yes.
Yeah, because you just showed me a word that you didn't know.
I know, Ben got micro mobility, I mean, what is the current everyday phrase for these everything from scooters to,
Birds and.
right, so, there's the big one.
Alternative modes of transportation.
Yeah, I mean, segways to
Devices.
devices.
Micromobility devices.
Okay,
There we go.
yeah, that's good.
Is that,
We replaced it.
here you're coming up with,
Bicycles, vehicles, and other micro-mobility devices.
Say that again, Jessica.
Yeah, put the and at the end.
After
put and,
vehicles,
alternative.
other micro-mobility devices.
And you're on section 3A.
One.
Okay.
What, John had a very simple, what was your?
Alternative modes of transportation.
So, yeah, I was gonna say, we may want to be careful, and the reason I say that, and I, as Commissioner Wright knows, I did a lot of this. Some micro-mobility devices are not allowed on various streets.
Yeah.
So.
And other micro-mobility devices as
Legal.
permitted by law.
That would be appropriate.
Yeah, because,
I move to change the language of section 3A1 to say speed controls to allow for shared use of the street by pedestrians, bicyclists, vehicles, and other micro-mobility devices as permitted by law.
yeah,
Okay.
right, because that takes out the golf carts
Yeah.
and whatever rules we might
Absolutely.
night tackle.
Well, I ran through some golf carts.
We any other,
They're not allowed.
Let's allow a little bit.
second, Jess?
I'll second it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
Now we're gonna vote?
All in favor? Passes unanimously.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
One of the main changes was the GDOT road classification, so we,
Like those.
The materials, collectors, and local.
yeah. So
Those are all
the
set.
previous policy had a lot of kind of made up classifications.
We don't like made up
No,
classifications.
y'all know I love me some data and facts. So now we just have arterials, collector, local, we just follow GDOT specifications, we're following planning, residential zoning, we check with them to make sure that that was the right zoning to use. And then one of the biggest changes of this policy is we define what a residential street is using those definitions.
I have a question. Please tell me we can take out the owner occupied
In which,
in the definition of D. There are two residential zoning districts. Is that a definition? Can we take out owner occupied?
Yeah, I don't know if we need that section at all. I don't think there's any. The only thing is that in the opt-out procedure,
Mm-hmm.
we say impacted resident. We say that we'll send it off to addresses along the impacted street and to absentee homeowners. So I don't know if we need those definitions.
I think the definitions are good, but I'm asking if we can correct them, make them more appropriate, which is
just take out owner occupied.
the owner occupied in I, and then there's a word I don't even know in double I.
The alter apartmental, whatever it is, is that the one you're talking
That's a
about?
typo.
Can't we just,
We just have.
That's the word?
homeowners, we don't need-
well, do we need the definitions of RS and RM, or can we just refer to those zoning categories and leave this subjective interpretation? Because this isn't
It's
like
permitted by law.
this isn't pulled from our code, this is just a subjective interpretation of the.
No, it's just pulled from, those are the definitions in there.
This is from Title IX.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Well, we could just,
I'm wrong, but that might change as we update our zoning map, right? So.
Yeah,
Have
we
to
could
change
leave
the
it.
policy.
Leave it.
Just
I
put as
think
per,
where the planning department is headed, I imagine these definitions are gonna change. So could we just refer to the?
just put as per the zoning.
RM.
Yeah.
But we can come back
Yeah.
and change this later. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's fine.
Even with the word you don't know yet?
Oh, we didn't get to the word. Did we get to the word we don't know yet?
I think we did.
Wait a minute, y'all. There's a word we don't know. Wait a minute. Wait.
Category.
I think that's a typo or.
So it just says single family.
Oh, okay.
It's not a
Okay.
typo.
It is.
All right.
We need
Ask the
definitions.
question. We need definitions.
Pertinent, I'm just
Appurtenant.
making it as common as I can. It's just the stuff that goes with it.
Can we just say the
The
stuff that goes with
it.
it? Or user friendly?
Oh, I see.
Oh,
Yeah. That's what we were over there wrestling with.
I thought it was a typo.
This is what you're talking about.
Third line down, this is
This right
intended for residential uses.
The stuff that goes with it.
Associated with.
Let's have it associated
Ancillary.
community service.
I think I work for the rest of the week. Well, but what do you say?
If what this is just copy pasted from our existing code, and we're going to be in the coming years, probably substantially modifying our existing code, couldn't we just refer to the zoning category and not worry about the descriptive language in our existing code? Recognizing that if we refer to the category, it will include whatever's currently there and whatever we
Yeah.
modify later without having to also modify this policy.
And it's got a footnote that leads you straight to the policy so that if it updates,
I
that
like
would
that.
automatically update.
So we can change this to there are two residential zoning districts, comma, single family residential RS and mixed density residential RM. Cut out all the rest.
But
Would want someone like a motion to make a motion?
I make a motion to do that.
second,
All in favor? Okay.
Maybe.
Smaller,
Okay.
Okay,
wait, was that a yes?
She's very detailed, y'all. She is very detailed. Y'all know that. Let's keep it moving.
Keep it moving while you can.
It's very
I
detailed.
think we do need to know for the minutes. but-
Yeah. What's
What's your vote?
Yes.
Okay.
okay.
Thanks.
Be in trouble.
I was about to ask.
So do we have any, we're good with the rest of that page? And the next page, I just put yeses next to the next two pages myself, with the crossouts on page 3, when it calls, that was just page 2, we're going on to page 3.
Okay, and so I have, now section D reads, there are two residential zoning districts, single family residential and mixed density residential.
Yeah.
And just period, and it still has the footnote that leads to.
Yes,
Is that how you wanted it?
Yes, ma'am.
let's move on to page 3 then. There's a lot of crossouts, which is the old policy, and then we're You know, we got the stuff added in gray in the bottom half. Any changes to, are we all good with page 3?
You were saying you wanted the owner occupied definition removed?
No, we took out the whole section, so,
Owner occupied is necessary as a definition since we're gonna be referring to it for opt-out, right?
Yeah, changes, yes.
she was talking about in the zoning definition, but we got rid of that completely, so.
Okay, sorry, I thought it was on the one on page.
Oh, great. 3, are we good with page 3? Explained, yes.
Two comments on page 3. Neighborhood's been struck almost universally through the document, but it still remains in G2. Neighborhood support for recommended solutions. I don't know if that's important or not. I just thought I'd draw it to y'all's attention.
Good point.
I think in the neighborhood involvement, this is the opt-out, part.
The effectiveness of this program is dependent upon,
What if we say resident engagement instead of neighborhood support for recommended solutions?
okay. Neighborhood references sort of beg, you gotta define the neighborhood.
Yeah,
Okay, resident engagement.
I move to
Wait a minute.
strike and replace section 3G2 with resident engagement.
That's one question about that then. So resident engagement, does that mean any resident in the city of Athens? Or does it need a surrounding resident engagement or something like that to narrow it to where you don't want people,
Resident engagement of the directly affected areas.
or something just to localize it to that.
Made it support for recommended solutions and you like didn't have the word neighborhood
I think that's good too.
or area support.
I think what we're trying to say here is that because we're no longer requiring people opt in, we're setting up instead of opt out. Then we're giving staff the ability to say, the data makes it clear that we should do this. We're gonna let everyone there know. And unless they let us know that they're against it, we're moving forward.
Yeah.
Which is different than like the old version of this policy, which I think this is a carryover from. It's like, we're only gonna do this if they really tell us they want it.
This is gonna define a project area, correct? Like there's
Yeah, I-
project, so I
Project
think
area.
project area needs to be referenced somehow.
Resident engagement in the project area.
Yeah, because I don't want somebody from one side of town saying, hey, I want it, but the residents in that area don't want it.
yeah. The drive-through traffic,
So what is?
people don't want the speed
New
bump,
motion.
but the people who would,
Withdraw former motion, new motion. Strike and replace section 3G2 with resident engagement in the project area.
Yes.
can I get staff to,
So completely delete it and just say resident.
Engagement in the project area.
so.
Yeah.
The current thing underway that I've worked on and learned is the residential parking pass. And in my mind, it was just gonna be this one house. And then when I got the staff detail, they had a list of several houses. And I was wondering if that policy might have a way that helps define who that project area is. Because the residential parking pass has a way that they determine
In
what signatures are needed.
the owners, or the properties that are on the street, like on the private area. So like if it's Falling Shoals Drive from this street to that street, then it's every person in on that.
So that's not I just thought that there would be a definition that would be helpful here, but.
That's a good point.
Like, I'm thinking about Commissioner Hoole's suggested wording of residential engagement. I would like to suggest changing engagement to support. Engagement to me is more active. This is an opt-out process, so people might just get a letter, react to the letter and whatever. It's not good. Engagement to me, it seems two-way, seems like there's gonna be a meeting and we're trying to get away from that. So I'd rather have a less active word and just support, because you support it by not opting out.
Would collaboration work better?
That's still two-way.
That's two-way. That's more engaged.
Are we just notifying them, like,
Yeah.
the notification?
Notification.
Yeah.
the effectiveness of the program is dependent on notification?
No,
Is that what you're saying?
no, that word doesn't work.
The effectiveness of this program is dependent on
I think,
what,
Residential support in the project area?
I mean, we have evaluation
Yeah.
and feedback that ensure desired outcomes are achieved, so it can be just remove that whole thing. Strike it entirely.
yeah, that's good. Let's,
focus on,
Withdraw and replace my motion again with striking entirely section 3G2.
wait,
Okay.
so this, we're not talking about the opt-out here.
no, but you have to opt in, the opt-in, right? So.
No, this is
the
the-
opt-out.
that's
I'm
the
sorry,
title
this is
is-
the opt-out. It
Back,
is the
we're in the
opt-out.
background section. Background,
This is all background, and G is effectiveness of this program is dependent on. So that's the topic that we're listing underneath,
Saying that we're
and
not
what it's dependent on.
Needing to gauge resident support because it's this database now instead.
I know,
So, but we're still saying we're gonna,
but we're still gonna focus on problems first, then solutions is what we're dependent on.
Right.
We're depending on, focusing on the problems, just the percentages,
Result.
and then the results of solutions. There's a list of those. And then we're evaluating feedback that ensures desired outcomes are achieved.
yeah, so we can talk to residents and parents that have it and make sure it's working, have follow-up conversations if we need to.
So the area, the people in the project area are being included in the evaluation and the feedback. So that's where that other statement's not needed. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right. So
So we just need two of those three.
right, the small letter I and the small letter I. Can I have a motion to just accept those two?
that motion is on the table.
That's on the,
Second.
yeah. Could someone second that motion?
I'll second it now that I understand it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yes, okay, approved.
Okay.
We have another,
This is my last comment on page 3, and it'll be my last comment, period. I promise.
No. It's-
I would recommend homeowners be replaced with property owners throughout.
Yep.
Some of these corridors have properties that aren't just homes.
Yep.
And as we try to increase the mixed use on these corridors, we're gonna have more properties that aren't
Yeah.
just homes.
well, then we have to have, do we,
Property owners, I think.
Property owners.
Trying to get to
Throughout the entire,
throughout.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Bruce.
wait, which one is that, Bruce?
Start
It's at
from
the bottom of
definition.
page 3. It's at the top of page 4.
A, oh, okay.
So page 6.
So under definition, owner occupied homeowners,
Yep.
are homeowners who live, is that the one you're talking about? Or different?
So what we're doing, I think what Bruce is suggesting is we just replace the word homeowners everywhere with property owners. And then because we have definitions A and B, it'll apply both to where there are homes and where it's a vacant lot, but there may one day be no more homeowner construction.
Correct.
Well, the goal here is that if it's a business for some reason, all right, if it's a business, then it's not a home. And the owner doesn't live there, he's not, or she's not gonna live there. It's a business, they're probably renting it. And by its nature, that's what it is. A homeowner or owner occupied is to identify that there is a category that we're looking for, we're identifying for them that they will qualify to do certain things under this policy, other people would not. So there's a specific reason why we're homeowner occupants or homeowners. They own the house and they occupy it. But I do see what it could be, maybe, or should be replaced somewhere else.
Perhaps we should just add a property owner definition. Non-home resident property owner.
Well, the whole project is residential traffic management.
Yeah.
And it's a good point that these areas aren't exclusively dwellings, residents. But they all have a property owner.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about the renter discussion?
Yeah, I think that's where I was going. Does the property owner thing, well, okay. Well, we were going away from renters, right?
Yeah, we don't necessarily even need the definition for renters in here. Because renter doesn't occur anywhere else in the document, so we could get rid of the definition for renter.
Do we need it actually, any of those definitions? Because you're not, I mean, that was for the old one.
The only definition we actually use is absentee homeowner, because in the neighborhood notification and opt-out procedure section, which is section D of program procedure and overview. I really gotta put page numbers on this, I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah, on page, the second to last page.
Yep.
Second E? Oh, okay, yeah.
Actually, it seems to me like there to address, Bruce's comment, you'd say absentee homeowners and non-residential property owners.
I think we would just say property owners. And then that would be
Absentee
okay.
property owners.
And Ronnie, if we were trying
Well, it
to
wouldn't be just,
speak to the people who were living in the home, I think that's what you were saying.
That's
Would you call
capital,
it-
the notification sent to the address, thing, right?
Yeah.
We're sending notification to all addresses regardless of who lives there
I would like
and to.
Have him hear what you were gonna finish
We
saying.
call them residents?
If they live there, they are residents, so the renters and the homeowners who live.
and businesses.
Any,
Any
that lives
businesses.
there. And then the absentees are absentees homeowners, but if we change them to property owners, that would be fine.
Mhm.
I'm not seeing, I'll take back what I said, and I'm not seeing a problem with changing the homeowner to property.
So we delete the definition for renter and homeowner / property owner, since the only one we actually use is absentee property owner. Should we delete the other two?
Is there any point, I mean, since that's sort of defined in that section there, do we actually need this section definition?
Section.
Can we just strike this definition, this whole section? Let's strike that because it's just confusing to make that.
Strike section 3D 4. Hold on, let's make sure I'm reading that.
Definition section.
3,
It's section 4.
yeah, section 4. Yeah. What's 4? Wow, look at that.
Okay, Commissioner Hull has made a motion to strike the section 4 definitions, since that's a holdover from the old policy. Can I have a second on that?
I got lost when you guys were using the absentee definition.
That's way in the back when you're notifying.
Under
someone
notifications?
On notification, and so at that place, we're just gonna, instead of saying absentee homeowner, we say absentee property owner.
So the notification is going to the address and to the property owner.
Yeah, the absentee.
Well,
Every property has like a other address on file. It's like we need to send them their taxes or whatever.
Right.
So if both are on, if there's 2 addresses on file, then DPW grabs both.
But so far, this is pertinent to the motion on the table.
It's still,
The only part of section 4 that matters anywhere in this document is the thing around absentee homeowner.
but it's still the property owner.
Defined within that section. And so then we'll redefine that section after that.
What I'm getting at is the property owner term is still relevant.
Right, and we'll use that back there. So we are following through on Bruce's
Okay.
suggestion.
So definitions are out.
Want me to grab that definition, put it in parentheses next time?
Yeah, but let's just take care of this.
I think if we strike this, then we'll be able to handle the other things.
Yeah.
So we're voting now to get rid of definitions.
Right.
And then we're at
We'll,
page 4,
we'll clarify that
Number-
when we get to that.
lower 5.
We have a second?
Yep.
All in favor? Aye, okay, great. Let's go on to page 4. And since
Program overview.
it's all crossed out,
Creation.
that's down in the bottom. Page 5. Minimum requirements, is really what's on this page. Everything else is crossed out.
Please to catch on with the road and safety audit now.
And it does have a special note, right? Where traffic engineers can identify safety concerns that don't fit there. Does anyone have a question?
Why is close to schools with students walking? What does students walking have to do with it? As a
That's
criteria?
one of the things that can lead to this. With
I
having,
mean, they could be on bikes, they could be on a alternative
Oh, so you're saying-
micro
you're saying
device.
say proximity to schools, but
I'm just, it just should be schools.
Yeah,
The students walking seems
yeah.
irrelevant. I move that number 3 is close to schools. Close to,
And cross out with students walking.
actually, it should be a school,
so section 5B3 be changed
to close to a school.
close to a school.
You don't need to have multiple schools for that to be relevant,
Okay,
in my opinion.
there's I agree.
Second.
Okay, second, all in favor? Okay. Okay,
Okay.
are we good with page 5 otherwise?
Without even bothering reading what's striked out, yes.
Page 6, I believe, is all striked out.
And that's a good page there.
So through that, which gets us to 7, where we had that up, only 2 more pages, 3 more, okay. Oh, yeah, only 2 more pages, that's okay.
Sorry, you had wanted us to add language to the, project priorities.
We're up to that page now, 7, that's where we are right now. We're on page 7, which is the second to last text page, 3rd page. So this is this is where we're going to insert the
Chart.
the chart.
I move that the chart is added where staff feels it's appropriate into the policy.
Can I add some sort of, or other, similar source, something like that? Just because like the data source being streetlight, the data source being new metric.
Yeah.
Could you put an asterisk under the sort here with that these, and if there's any words that you can say, these are GIS, whatever, like generic word, other data sources.
The data, yes, we can, and to clarify, there are companies who use big data and project it to us. So Streetlight, for example, they use the big data and they use us. So you may say available, I don't know what other terms than big data to
Yeah.
use, but we can not be specific for one company. We can say that we used it for this policy, it was used for here, but doesn't mean that future policies or iteration of the priorities will be utilizing the Streetlight data, maybe use somebody else. So we will include
change.
subject to change. So we will include a phrase in front of it saying that at the time this was considered was this source of data, and it is subject to change.
Can I get the lawyers to weigh in on what the appropriate language would be?
For additional data sources, is that what we're trying to capture?
So it's true, the streetlight data is associated with a company. That company may be gone tomorrow, but we still
Right.
use that type of data.
Okay.
Big data.
And
I think, and where is it in some shit?
It's not.
So it's not, okay.
They want to insert a chart.
This
Yep.
chart.
Well,
instead of internal
Explain
GIS.
Some of the data sources.
Doesn't this chart doesn't say anything about what company?
Streetlight is a company.
Oh. What if we just move to insert the chart minus the data source column?
Sherry, what were you coming up with there?
well, no, I mean, I don't really think this is a legal question. I think this is just I don't want to say procedural, but just in terms of what you all want to actually see and what is the most effective way to do that. So, I mean, it could just be a reference generically to statistical data, or we could certainly include the chart.
I'd like to suggest that, following Commissioner Poole's suggestion, that we remove the data source column, but add an asterisk underneath, say, data source for these indicators will come from.
What if I put in like location-based or connected vehicle data and kept it
Yeah.
like broad, but that's the type of data we use, which is like location-based services and connected vehicle data.
And can you put any of the words in there that would make sense for the 10 to 15 people on the east side that meet with me? Like, are all older than I am? Be reading this data.
Like cell phone based data.
Something like that, just something that's
What's another word for connected vehicle?
Fine.
just something in there.
I'm just wondering for the policy that the commission does, do we need to worry about what the data sources are that staff use?
The whole
Can we
column,
just trust that staff?
whole column could be gone,
That's
this whole
yes.
column.
Yeah.
Yes. Can we just
Okay.
adopt this chart without that data source columns?
Okay,
Yeah.
yes,
And then staff is just gonna know what to do with their information?
right.
That's, is that a motion?
Yeah.
We make a motion to data source,
Where do you want it added?
well,
If you were.
Project prioritization?
on the chart.
Brought up the point that somebody might read that and think that DPW staff are going out and looking at every single street in the county or something. So you had
I
asked.
mean, that seems to be like a big thing that we're doing here is using this big data, and that's enabling us to do this. So that's why I want, like, even an asterisk that was just a very user-friendly explanation, data sources from blah, 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 one. Just very simple.
So what happened to the idea of taking data source column out of this chart?
Oh, I'm doing that and adding a word that just said data source.
Utilizing available data sources. That leaves
As
it
determined.
good enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can just take it out. We'll take it out. I'll do it with it.
I put in asterisks and I said data sources utilize location-based services or connected vehicle data from like large vendors. And then I can put an asterisk next to the ones that utilize that so that somebody could. Like now, would that work?
It would work for me, and I would think it would
What is your motion?
to my
I
motion.
think there's a
I got
motion on the floor.
My motion is to insert this table without the data column, adding on the asterisk that explains in everyday language where the data is coming from.
So what is the motion on the floor? Who's keeping track?
I am,
Yeah.
you originally made the motion.
To get rid of the data source column, period.
Period, let's do that.
And then add,
And then, is there a second? To get rid of the column that's specifying what our data source is. Is there a second for
From
that?
this document?
Yes.
From this chart?
Inserting it in here.
Because all we did already,
Yeah.
we just voted to approve the percentages. We did not vote this chart as,
Okay, yeah,
so when we insert the information of this chart into the policy, it does not have a data source column in it anymore.
Right.
It's gone. That's my motion.
that's good. I'm good.
Second,
Second.
Second,
Thank you.
I'm fine.
now let's vote.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Go.
Now,
Move on.
and that's going to be in,
Here's my little
under project prioritization. It's going to be in here,
field that later.
right in here, chart.
So then motion to add the project prioritization chart as modified to section 5.2.
Second. I second that.
Okay.
All right. We're voting on that.
I got it.
Putting the chart in.
Okay.
Here we are. We're getting there.
And moving on to the last page of the policy.
Okay, so in neighborhood notification, we don't need to say absentee homeowner. You just put in property owner. I motion.
Second?
All,
All in favor? Aye.
got it in there, Bruce.
Replacing absentee homeowner with property owner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that one. All right, here's the opting out hint to it, yet to come. Okay,
Do you guys have any changes to the actual procedure or does it look good to you?
I thought it looked good, and then we're gonna do the actual opt-out next, at another gathering.
Okay.
I thought that's what we just did. That's it up.
Well, I talked about it, but we're gonna do the more detail. See, that's a,
You're right. The next one's opt-in voluntary. You're right.
Yeah,
This is opt-out, data-driven, right? Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Is it safe to assume that the weird numbering inconsistencies will be fixed when y'all finalize this?
Yes.
They're fixed in the other version, but they can go to.
Okay, so we've gone through this page by page. At this point, does someone do we feel confident enough that someone can make a motion that we accept all changes and move on?
so moved.
This I'll think is recommend to the commission that we adopt the policy.
Yes, yes, yes.
Second.
Wait, you just added what?
No,
I was just accepting the
The
document.
policy, right, the policy that we're gonna show to our colleagues.
Well, we have to vote on that too. So now, okay, so what's the new motion?
To recommend this policy as we just modified to the commission for adoption.
I thought we were working on, Nikki, what were we gonna be working on next time relative to this?
The voluntary policy, and I think it'd be appropriate for us to talk about the list.
Mhm.
Right.
I think that we should not be sending this out until everything's done.
Oh,
So, my motion was just to accept the work that we just did on the policy.
okay. Yeah, I think we're in the same place. It's just timing, words. I wasn't necessarily thinking that we were gonna then present it at the next
Yeah,
meeting.
so we don't need that
Ready
in the
to
motion.
accept it.
We don't need that in the motion. The motion is to accept what we just
Okay.
went through in here for a new policy, and then we could see the clean version of it at the next
Great.
meeting. That's not part of the motion, but that's an idea.
Yes. And we
So-
have a second on that. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
I guess I'm confused and whatnot.
Because we're gonna put all of them together to the commission. Okay, we're just gonna wait and put them all together. So we have to have our discussion of these other parts. And we're just gonna have one agenda item for the large, commission, because that's a much more efficient way to everyone see all the pieces together.
Yes.
For what reference topic, I'd like to encourage you to consider that might drag on for months, and if we want to enable staff to move forward with a policy that we all think is good, with the many streets on this list that we all know people want to get work done on in time for the budget cycle and everything, that it might be good to adopt this policy and then deal with it. Because we're also assuming the other policy we're gonna work on is gonna be used rarely, in fact, which is probably lower priority than the other things on our agenda.
Well, I think that we do have to have I think it would make sense to have a discussion of this list, that Commissioner Thornton brought up. And I would suggest that whether or not we, is the acceptance of this in January versus February going to make any difference in terms of the transportation public board?
It will definitely help us know what to focus on. So if you decide to vote today on the policy changes and recommend to move this policy as the new policy for the old neighborhood, which is now residential
Right.
neighborhood traffic management, it will allow us to, with confidence, to move into looking at the list and come back with some recommendation with the grandfathering of what happens to the roads remaining on the list. The other policy, the voluntary self-funded policy, is a almost completely separate policy. So it's going to have its own number, its own existence, and its own changes. Now, it is a derivative from the mother policy, and it would require a different vote and different discussion. So it's in your really ability, and would it impact us? I don't think there's a lot of impact. Either if you do it today, you do this, make this vote today to adopt the policy or recommend adoption of the policy, or if you do it in January, it's up to you.
Since we went through and made so many changes, we're gonna get a clean copy. I think we're already, we're gonna be okay with that, but that would give us the time to think on this. You guys come back with this, and we will make recommendation on sending this policy and our observations on this list to the larger commission, after January.
And I apologize, I've got a couple of things going on today, but I would like to see a clean copy.
Yeah, I think that makes
Do you
sense.
want to hand them the clean copy now?
We have
changes
some changes to make on that, so we give them a clean copy at the next.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and then we can wrap up or determine what else is related to this as a spinoff
Right.
and whether we tackle that. You get, as they say, as Blaine would say, talk among yourselves, staff, and so that we know whether to move them all together or separate. And then you've got what you needed for your work with what we voted on today.
Yep,
Right.
and since you guys just voted to take our recommendation, I don't have homework actually. Just have your list right here.
Can I just, for a point of order, Commissioner Poole, do you mind, letting me know what your vote was for that last accept the plan? Because I think you had a question, so I didn't hear you get your name
Yeah, well, I guess originally I thought we were like, let's move on the plan. And I
for policy.
I'm fine, yeah, I can vote to accept the plan.
Okay,
I
I
guess
just want to make sure. Okay.
we're, I guess it seems, like, I don't know if it's a necessary thing for us to make a motion about. But yeah, sure.
Well, I
Okay,
just want to
sorry,
wrap it
thanks.
all up.
Here's a question. So are we not doing the money that we put for the budget for the MPT, whatever the old name of the project? We're doing stuff right now.
Yes.
This is relative to the 2024 or no, I guess 2025. So is there a date that you need to have this finalized by and let us work backwards from that?
For the budget purposes?
Yeah, so when we, like, we need to vote on it by March, or what's the date that needs to be, go to the commission where it's not, and then we can work backwards?
I'd love for us to vote on it at the next meeting, but
Yes, next meeting would be fine. Doesn't change the timeline.
For us to vote in February, and then it goes to the commission in March.
But
No, we vote in January.
In January.
February cycle,
And it goes
it can drop in.
Okay, is that, and that timeframe works with y'all?
and budget starts really moving forward in March, and,
For y'all,
we'll
yeah.
be,
And there is currently funding. It's not like we're running out of funding completely through this plus. So if it is not this budget cycle, it would be next budget cycle. There's opportunities. It's not like a missed chance here. I think we've made a great progress.
Okay.
But all of the ones in the like orange and green already have a funding application.
So, meaning that it's 2:23. We are, unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna get to this. We're not getting to this invasive, species. But, for the next one, you can reiterate this, these items, the 3 items in blue, and you're gonna get us a clean copy beforehand, we'll have clean copies, and then you can give us some an evaluation.
Yes.
of what's going on, and a recommendation of these rates.
yes.
So that we can make a decision on that and not belabor it too long and move on with that.
We'll give you all the facts right now, and I'm sorry we didn't have all of you.
That's totally fine. And so hopefully in the next meeting, we can get through that in very short order. And then move immediately into the invasive species.
And the good part about the January plan is when look how long it took us. So when the GOC people see this, and if they need more time or a hold, we're still pretty good scheduling.
True, that's true.
Right, if it gets,
And it's not over December when we're all very busy with
Will they need like a work session from staff to explain the changes, or how does that work? I'm just trying to think if I should leave them.
no, you don't have to.
No.
Not that I tell you what your workload is or anything, but, I don't.
No, she's right. It comes out of LRC.
Assistant manager. Did you have any final comments?
No, I think y'all did great work there.
No, ma'am. Okay.
I think y'all did really good.
Sarah?
I was just gonna say, next meeting is, if we follow our normal schedule, would be January 4th. So I just wanted to call that out in case.
Let's just review, when is our next?
Can we do it the Thursday after our next voting meeting?
We meet on the 2nd?
Yeah, that's our voting meeting.
We're gonna have-
Yeah. Yep.
I guess we're not gonna be going to the national championship, so we'll be in here.
Yeah, we got nowhere else to be, John.
All right.
So there's no talk among staff to move that January 2nd? I'm just kidding. No behind the scenes scoop on that?
I haven't.
We would have had to vote in our voting meeting earlier this week to change the date if we wanted to.
Yeah, you never know when a special.
That voting meeting is moved into the next day. It was no longer,
It was a
it
2
was no longer Tuesday, it was a
Okay,
Wednesday.
so are we, I could go either way, but is there still interest in moving it, the LRC from the 4th to the 11th?
That's fine. That's fine.
Oh, let's keep it on the 4th because our,
Especially if the goal of having them in this timing is so that it can be in the agenda setting cycle, right? So
right, we're already gone. We're sticking with the 4th.
Okay, perfect.
Good to go.
So we vote on,
Thanks for the reality check though.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's gonna be a rough week. All right, so we'll be meeting on January 4th, Thursday at 1 o'clock. Then at this point, can I have a motion to adjourn unless there's
Yes.
discussion?
Adjourned. Motion.
Second,
second.
all in favor?
Right.
I'm just here.
You got.
I got stuff.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I was late. For some reason I had.